Okay, I'll just do it
Good, going? Okay. Okay, we're good to go. All right, it's 10:03 and I'm calling the meeting to order here on September 19th. First order of business is the land acknowledgement. The City of Seattle Public Safety and Civil Service Commission acknowledges that we are on the ancestral lands and waters of the Coast Salish and Duwamish people and their descendants. We honor with gratitude the land, the people, past and present. The next item on the agenda is attendee introductions. Ms. Jacobs, I want to start with you.
Hello, I'm Teresa Jacobs, Executive Assistant for Public Safety Civil Service.
I'm Andrea Sheely. I am the Executive Director of the Commission.
And I'm Richard Green. I'm one of the commissioners.
Stacy Canal, a commissioner.
Tom Doe.
Oh,
Joining by telephone, Tom Applegate, Commissioner.
And I'm Joe LeBaron from the City Attorney's Office, Legal Counsel for the Commissions.
Sarah Butler.
great. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is public comment. Do we have any public comment? Did we get any written public comment?
We did not. Sorry, Teresa. Yeah, we did not receive any written public comment. And when we get to the update on our new format for meetings, online meetings, I will explain more about public comment process and we can discuss that.
Great. The next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. We've got some revised minutes from the July 25th meetings. And I looked at those and they seem fine. So I would move that we adopt the corrected minutes of the July 25th meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, so those are approved. Then we have the minutes of the August 22nd meeting. I've taken a look at those. They seem fine. So I would move that we approve the August 22nd minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great. All right, so those are approved. Let's see, we don't need executive session today. We don't seem to have any action items today. So we move to the next item on the agenda, updates and discussion. And first thing is on the new meeting format. Bearing in mind some of the difficulties we had the last few times. Sheila, you want to talk about that a bit?
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner Green. Many of you attend our meetings regularly and know that we've had a bit of malicious mischief happening at our meetings. And so we were using the WebEx format. We started using that for online or hybrid meetings. Back at the beginning of the pandemic in 2020, it was the tool the city had that also allowed members of the public to participate. But the city's access to technology has improved and the technology itself has improved. So after these, a couple of our meetings were taken over. We consulted with IT, with Seattle IT, and they recommended that we move to the format that we're using today. This is called Teams Town Hall. I don't know if it's a new function of Teams, but it is new for us. And so thank you everyone for bearing with us. And this is like an iterative process, probably. If it doesn't work out or people want to see something else, we can always talk about that. But we're trying this for now because it seemed to meet the needs of the commission. It is a WebEx format. And so IT recommended it because it is really good for the people who need to be discussing an item or participating in a meeting can do that either remotely or in person. And then other people who do not need to be participating in the meeting can watch the meeting. We will still be able to post all of our meetings, the recordings and the video online on our YouTube website for easy access for people who can't attend. We do have regular participation from the Seattle Police and Fire Departments. They're our main stakeholders. And so we do have we asked those departments to each identify a couple of people who are ready to participate. I know it may not look like that to you all. I don't know if you all have used Town Hall, but when it comes time for that, we will toggle you on and you'll be able to appear on video or audio or however you choose to do that to talk directly to the commission. As for public comment, and commissioners, please feel free to interrupt me if you have a question about anything I'm saying. As for public comment, we have two ways we are permitting public comment at this time. One is, as we mentioned, in writing. Email will probably be the primary way people want to do that. And we have it posted on our website quite clearly that public comment will be accepted in writing by email to our general email box. And we will be delivering it to commissioners 24 hours before the start of any meeting. We have asked public comment in the subject line because we do use this email box for other purposes, such as accepting appeals. But if they don't, and it is clear that it's a public comment, we're going to do our very best to forward that on to you all. And I also want to let you know, if we receive public comment and it's there and we see it less than 24 hours before me, we're still going to forward it on to you all. It's just, you may not have as much time to review it, or, you know, if it comes in during the meeting, we probably won't see it, but we'll be sure to forward it to you all afterward. The other way to give public comment is in person. And I do not see any public commenters here today, but as always, we'll be opening our space to the public as required by the Open Public Meetings Act. And so folks can come and give public comment that way, as we've seen them do many times in the past. I'm probably getting a little bit ahead of myself, but I'm thinking about when we have an agenda item that we might want to request specific comment on. You know, we might be doing that in the midst of the agenda. I've seen the city council do that effectively, and I think it's especially appropriate for rulemaking. But we'll work through all these things as they come. But that's sort of where we are right now. Joe, do you want to add anything about this new method or considerations that you have from the legal perspective?
Just to say that we did work through this, and Andrea did consult with me about how to do this, so we make sure we comply with the Open Public Meetings Act. So this process does comply. What the act provides for, there was an update a few years ago related to public comment specifically, and it provides that for regular meetings at which final action is going to be taken, that you need to accept public comment, but your practice has been goes beyond that, and you allow for public comment at most all your meetings anyway. So we'll make sure that you always comply with that requirement about receiving public comment at all regular meetings at which you are going to take final action on something, which would be a vote. But you also, again, times when you get special meetings, so for special meetings, you don't have to take public comment, but sometimes you do, sometimes just depends on what the commission wants to do. And most of your meetings, you will take some final action on something if you're voting on something. But again, that's been your practice. And so it's important in terms of the options, the website that, as Andrea indicated, has been updated to be clear about what the options are so the public knows. And to make a distinction here between there'll be times when you have public hearings, and that's a little different than public comment. Obviously, you receive comment from the public in that circumstance too, but a public hearing, there's just more formality behind that. So we'll clarify we'll make sure that those requirements are met as well for public hearings. But this is just, we're talking about today is just related to public comment, and the way that the law provides, it says that the commission can set a reasonable time for when the comment is received, and then it gets distributed to the governing body prior to the meeting. So what Andrea thought made sense for now is to have it be submitted 24 hours in advance of your meetings and then distributed to you all at that time. So that's up to the commission going forward, how you want to do that. So if you want to have more or less time, you could do that. But that's the way it's set up now, based on the general email box that the commission has. There's not a separate email box like that would go to all the commissioners at the same time. Potentially that would be an option in the future, but that's not currently set up. That's what, for example, the city council has.
Yeah.
So there's not this 24-hour snipping. It goes to this centrally email box, goes to everybody. So maybe but that's an IT issue that could potentially be worked on in the future.
Yeah. Another thing I just wanted to add was, when, it's a little bit different, but when we have guests, those of us in the room can see on the left column, those are sort of like guest speakers. We can always invite more people. I just want to make sure that we are meeting the needs of the commission. And, you know, we want to meet I consider the legal requirements of the floor. We really want to meet the spirit of, you know, the commission being participatory, serving its stakeholders, hearing from, you know, members of the public safety civil service system, and be as participatory as possible, and really only reel back that, or have that level of control so that the meetings are able to be productive and not interrupted in the way that they have been.
Yeah, so it's unfortunate that there are these malicious acts that happen, but in the end, it's been a good process to look at the technology and think about how to upgrade it. And so I think this is a really good solution. But it as Andrea mentioned, it's a work in progress. So if the commission gets comments from others about how things are working, or you all have ideas about how to improve it, then that's always Andrea's always open to hear that.
So I was wondering, so if a person sort of here remotely wants to present something, do we still have that sort of share screen option that they had something they wanted to share with us, sort of kind of in writing, they could do it on a screen that we could see, or how does that work, do you know?
Yeah, well, if it's a person that is going to do, for instance, a presentation, like we had Dr. Swander here the other day, I mean, there's a lot of ways we can do it, but yes, if they're an invited presenter, they can either give us their materials to put up there, or we could give them that kind of control. We could hand them the screen.
We can toggle this.
We just don't want to,
here.
yeah, so for instance, yeah, those people on the left could share their screens.
Mhm.
There's different levels of control. We just don't want people grabbing the screen and putting whatever they want up there. But definitely, yes.
And I know you all know this already, but under the Open Public Meetings Act, the point is transparency as to the public being able to see you do your work, to see how you conduct your business. But in terms of them participating, they are your meetings. So
Right.
they're the commission meetings for the commission to do its business. And to the extent that public comment is allowed, which it is allowed, that you allow them for a certain amount of time, and you can put limitations on 2 minutes or 3 minutes, however you want to do that. Commenters, if they're doing public comment, as you've seen at council meetings, there are times when disruptions occur where the council has to get involved and do something about that. So you can certainly intervene if you need to. This technology is meant to make sure that the public can view what you're doing, and then also to submit public comment. But unfortunately, having real-time access by the public to then post whatever they want on the screen has been a real problem, unfortunately. So that's why this adjustment's being made, but it's consistent with what the OPMA, the letter and the spirit of the OPMA, check the transparency.
That's a good distinction.
I was just curious, because so many of our stakeholders are employees of the city of Seattle, does everyone already have Teams, or are people having to download this as a new application?
Great question. This is accessible either, so I think Tom is having trouble because I'll get to that. You don't have to have Teams installed on your computer. It works through your browser as well. And I think it works. We've had some challenges getting WebEx to work through people's browsers. We should test this actually, but I bet it works better. Good question. But you don't have to have the application. Commissioner Applegate is probably having trouble logging in as a participant, like the people on the left side of the screen, because of the email being sent to him and then him not having the application on his computer. So I think as a participant, you probably do need to have the application to be speaking with us. I'm going to double check that.
Yeah.
Because members of the public will not necessarily have that.
I can chime in just anecdotally. The first issue I had is when I went to log in through the browser, it said that this meeting is only accessible using the app because of the form, what's it called, the community, whatever that's called. So yeah, I think you have to have the app in order to get on this format of meeting.
Yeah, we'll have to test that, Tom, because you and I had a meeting on Teams yesterday that seemed to work just fine, but we weren't using Town Hall.
That's the distinction. I think that what it said, the specific error message I had was, in order to access the town hall meeting, you have to have the app. It's not accessible as a web browser.
Okay, well, let's test that and make sure this is the right tool for us then. And I do think we have our Seattle IT consultant listening to the call.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, we will follow up with him and make sure that he's able to help us answer that question. Seattle IT has been very, very helpful in this process.
And that's not our understanding, that you need to have a separate application. It should be available to the browser.
Yeah, it should be available to the browser. I don't know what's going on with you, Tom, but we'll fix you up.
Sounds good.
And I would imagine it's gonna take a few meetings to work something kinks out, and that doesn't mean this isn't the right platform, it just takes some time.
Yep.
My other question was, does anyone have any thoughts, or have you already considered what the chat function is for and what it is not for, and if we have expectations for folks? And what I'm getting at is, in the past, and Andrea and I have talked about this here and there, is sometimes there would be substantive information coming in through the chat. And that, I think, can get a little confusing if you're trying to focus on the presenter and look at the chat, and the chat's, if you're here in person, the chat's not always open. And so I had a kind of different opinions on it, whether I was doing this remotely or here, but I wonder if we want to kind of reach alignment on our expectations for the chat.
Yeah, let's discuss it. And Teresa, I'm sure you have a perspective on it.
Well, the chat is on. So I think it's more just being mindful of making sure that we see if someone has put a message in the chat box.
I prefer, I mean, we can talk about it offline too, but I prefer not to use the chat. I feel like it's too much to manage while we're also trying to run the meeting and do this work.
And I haven't minded it in the past for someone to use chat to say, hey, we can't hear you, or, you know, technological issues, that was their only way to get to us. But when people were putting really great, meaty comments, then it was hard. It was almost like trying to listen to two speakers at the same time, which my brain didn't want to do at this stage.
Well, and I guess I'm sort of like, well, maybe we can I hope we can find a middle ground. I bet we can, but I feel like we don't want meaty comments in the chat,
Right.
at all.
And I'm not sure how the city council does it, but what I've seen work is that it could be available just for those technical questions that Teresa would review as they come in, but it doesn't, I would recommend against having an expectation from the public that they can submit to you substantive comments through the chat, because it's not a good vehicle to do that. And the vehicle would be through public comment, through email, or coming to your meetings.
That would be my preference.
But obviously what could happen through the chat, it could be used maliciously through text and otherwise. So that's the whole point of making this change, is to not allow that to happen. So, but it could be where the administrator can see what's there to see if there's a technical issue. It can be addressed, but that it doesn't go to the commission itself, because you don't need to be dealing with technical issues. That can be dealt with by staff during the meetings.
In this format, only the participant or the presenters are able to chat. If that function is left on. Everyone else,
Attendees.
they are just viewing. So they're just the audience. They don't have access to be able to
Engage.
come on the screen, say anything, send anything.
And you're able to manage who's a presenter.
Yes, so all of these people, like the fire and police representatives, they're going to be on our permanent invite list. So they're always going to be able to present to the commission, just like Sarah or Alan McKenzie from the police department. They're going to give their attrition numbers. So once it's time for them to come on, we'll toggle it over and they'll be able to come on screen.
Great. Okay, that's good to know. I didn't realize that only presenters have access to the chat
maybe we can look into, we're getting in the weeds here now, but like putting some kind of note at the top or in the meeting that's like, please, we are not reviewing this for public comment or substantive messages, only for technical, but think about, and you don't need to answer right now, but like think about whether that's too much to manage because you're essentially our tech person for this meeting.
And
Yeah.
And you're running the
Yeah.
meeting.
Joe, anything that goes in the chat is subject to public disclosure too.
That's right.
I guess I'm just thinking to not over commit, because if we set the expectation that you could even put non-substantive comments in the chat, then we need to be checking that.
Right.
Anyway, let's think about that and we'll decide how to approach that.
Thank you both for your comments. Do you have any more thoughts or comments? Okay, please. And Tom, we'll check in with you too.
All right, so the next item on the agenda is introduction to rulemaking examinations.
Thank you. Yes. So this is just the highest level of inform only. Feel free to discuss if you like though, but we have been working as a commission since I think it was February or even last year. I think the request was made with regard to PSCSC rule 9.23 to improve the rule. Not necessarily to change it, to change the substance of it, but to improve it so that it is clearer, so that there are better descriptors of the exam, key copy inspection and protest process. We met in February at our PSCSC Commission retreat and did some there to improve the rule. I drafted an advisory letter with help from staff and I actually consulted with all stakeholders at that time, all stakeholders I was aware of at that time, and put something together as a draft. And ultimately, I think it was the recommendation of Commissioner Applegate, thank you so much, thank you, that we do this in the form of a rulemaking so that it is even more accessible, visible, and sort of final to codify it in the rules. And so we have been slowly chipping away at a rule. I want to thank Sarah Butler for her work on that, and Joe Levant as well for his consultation. We are almost there in terms of I want to now do some additional stakeholdering for our stakeholders who are listening today. I think actually I've already told both departments about this, but I will be sharing a draft for your input, comments, thoughts, and questions in the next couple of days. I will also share that the other stakeholders in this work are all four of the fire and police union leadership to share it with their members if they wish to do so. Our city labor relations team. We've also worked with our exam staff on this. Thank you all so much. They're the people who sort of manage the work. So that's coming. That's for both 9.23. That's key copy inspection. And then for PSCSC rule 9.12, the fire department has requested a rule update to that rule. And you'll find Deputy Chief Branham's request at pages 8 and 9 of your materials. And that is for a change to that rule to eliminate, we call them the no-fail oral boards for multiple fire promotional exams. I really appreciate this recommendation, and I am drafting a version of the rule that I will recommend to the commissioners, along with, you have these materials, you'll see these materials, and I hope you'll hear from Chief Branham at our next meeting himself to speak on behalf of this. But the version that I'm going to recommend is actually a little bit simpler than what Chief Branham is bringing forward, but I am just dearly grateful for his work on this. And I have a little stakeholdering of my own to do ahead of my recommendation. But I think it's a wonderful recommendation. I'm happy to see it.
Great.
So more to come.
Okay. So the next item on the agenda is the Executive Director Budget and Departmental Updates.
Great. All right, well, the mayor has not released his proposed budget yet. He will do that to the city council on September 24th. I believe that is next Tuesday. And so we are asked to keep the proposed budget confidential until that time. But on the 24th, I will communicate with commissioners and staff by email about what his proposed budget, the mayor's proposed budget looks like for the Civil Service Commission's department for 2025. And we'll be happy to answer questions from anyone at that point. The 2024 budget, the materials are at page 10. Nothing of significance to report. We're well under our spending for the year. This does, yes, it does now include the additional funds that we have in reserve for legal costs and expenditures. That is now reflected this month. But I'm happy to take any questions on that.
So do we have to spend all the money or it goes away?
The amount in reserve for legal costs, we can request to carry that forward. I do believe that the city will get tired of us requesting that because it is for a specific purpose. And I work hard every year to persuade the city, and I have been successful so far, that we still need that money because the vaccine mandate impacts are alive and well. That's what that's for. But yes, anything that we're a general fund department, so anything we don't spend goes back into the general fund, and then they reallocate us what we need for the next year.
Let's see. Next item on the agenda is case status report.
Thank you. The status report, we are at page 11, your materials. We have two appeals before the Civil Service Commission at this time. The first is Hill versus SPD. We are scheduling the pre-hearing conference for Mr. Hill October 4th. Is that correct, Teresa?
October 3rd or 4th.
Okay, I would like October 4th.
Okay.
So we'll be scheduling that and moving this appeal forward. This is a dismissal. The other appeal was very recently filed. The materials are quite lengthy. I need to read them again very closely, and I will have additional report for you at the next meeting.
So the next item on the agenda is the fire and police exam unit updates. So Ms. Shadegg, do you want to start?
Excuse me, this is Sarah Lee. Before she starts, I just wanted to let you guys know, because I was actually driving, so I couldn't speak. I don't see a hand raising icon in the town hall version, and for the stakeholders who do have access, like myself, I don't know if you are aware of it, at least via the phone. So I'm just bringing that to your guys' attention, and I don't know if it's just the configuration or what, but if we want to raise our hand, I can't figure out how to do that through the phone.
Alan McKenzie is raising his hand, but I don't think that we'll have a part at the end of the meeting for you, Ms. Lee, Director Lee. I don't know that we want to, I don't know. Do you want to speak to that, Commissioner Green?
I just wanted to bring it to your attention if it's a technical thing that I haven't figured out, and that maybe Alan and I can talk offline. We can do that to figure that out. I just wanted to let you know I just couldn't figure it out. So
Okay.
So what's the purpose of that hand raising function?
I think it's for someone to say they have a comment or a question.
Right. So like during the middle of somebody's presentation, like members of the public or
Presenters,
Presenters.
looks like presenters can do that,
but maybe not the public.
not the public. But I mean, you could just hold questions, if you want to take questions, you could hold questions for the end of the meeting. Or if there's an agenda item that relates.
And so she can't do it if she's on her phone, but Alan can do it because he's sort of on the app. Is that the,
I can't tell.
yeah,
I'm on my desktop, just using the Teams. I see the raise hand icon.
and
right
so
on
you
my-
can use it, but Ms. Lee can't because she's on her phone. Huh.
That's possibly the difference.
I'll figure it out. I just wanted to let you know for
Yeah, no, good point, good point.
But if you're providing time for the different departments to give an update to the commission, then they can do that at that time.
Yeah.
And it's just like if someone was here in the audience saying, where someone else is talking and they say, hey, I try to get your attention to
Yeah.
say something, you could recognize them or not. It's up to you as the chair.
Okay, well, all right, at least we're aware of that concern.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think we'll have time for the fire department to give their data at the end of the meeting.
Okay, so back to Ms. Shetty.
Hey. We'll start off with the report for police exams. We have our entry-level exam process in progress. And to date, in the current exam cycle, we have about 300 applications that we've received, and we have about another month before the exam cycle ends. So the application numbers continue to be robust, and we're pretty happy about that. The resulting lists, the eligibility list that we hand over to the police department, but they have been on the large side, so that trend looks to be continuing. We're pretty happy about that. This is the last exam cycle that will be 6 or 7 weeks in duration. The new exam cycle will open on October 18th, and it's at that time that we will have bi-weekly registers. We'll start producing bi-weekly registers every 2 weeks. We will pull a register from the NTN's Exam HQ site and processing lists more frequently. So they will be smaller, but we'll be doing it at more regular intervals, and so that is a desirable thing from the SPD standpoint, because then they don't get a large block of names. They're kind of able to work through a smaller group more methodically every 2 weeks. So we're looking forward to that, and we have a the lateral process that has, for quite some time, we were having 0 to 2 participants in our lateral exam processes, but now that number is picking up. The last register we had 5, and they looked to be very, very promising candidates. So we're very excited about that. We like the diversity, the level of experience. So things are picking up in that regard. So we're very happy about that. The list of 5 was sent over to SPD on September 16th. With regard to our promotional exams, the exam for Police Captain 2025, we have the suggested reading list that's due out to candidates on October 4th. And we are working with the development committee to make that happen, and we're on track to do so. The police lieutenant exam, the final bibliography was published in the SPD notices, so that's already, that part of our work is complete. We've also, thanks to one of my new coworkers who helped me compile materials, Vivian Moken, just doing this on a temporary basis. She's backfilling Adelaide's position, former position. We put together all of the materials on Monday. And just this morning, I had confirmation from the webmaster at SPD that the file of materials is being put on SPD SharePoint today, so that all of those potential applicants, those who are sergeants and wish to be lieutenants, will have all of those materials compiled in one location for them to upload and start the studying process. And those exams will be in the spring.
I am also subbing for Yoshiko today. So that's all I have for updates on the police side. If you have any questions about that, I'd be happy to answer it before moving on to fire.
No, I think you can go ahead with that.
Okay, all right. Yoshiko's under the weather here, so she asked me just to share a few things with regard to fire exams. The fireboat pilot practical exam was administered last week. That was Monday through Thursday. We had 2 participants in that process, and 2 of the days we spent at MITAGS, which is the Marine Training Institute here on Alaskan Way. And we have 1 day of assessor training, and then and candidate orientation, and then the second day at MITAGS was having the candidates actually go through the exam exercises. Then we moved over to Station 5 on Wednesday and Thursday. We had assessor training on Wednesday on 2 boats, the Chief Seattle and Fireboat 2. And the assessors got comfortable with the scoring material, the scoring booklets, and were able to, they were taken out on the boat to go through all of the exercises so they could work out all of the kinks. It would go smoothly on exam day, and it did. Thursday, we had our 2 candidates perform the practical exam on both the Chief Seattle and Fireboat 2. So that was a success. And the eligibility list that will be put together as a result of that exam administration will be December 15th. It'll be published. So the work begins on that, compiling all of the scores and putting together the eligibility list. With regard to fire lieutenant, that is her the fire a large promotional exam for the fire department in 2025. She has her kickoff meeting, Yoshiko does, with the members of her development committee next week. And another big lift, a heavy lift, the whole team is working on is the opening of the firefighter exam process, which applications will open for the firefighter exam on October 4th. And so all of the final tweaks to the job bulletin and work on logistics and planning that's occurring right now, so that can also go off without hitch. She also, as part of this, Yoshiko participated, and I think Adelaide, you participated as well in the applicant workshop. It was at Fire Connect.
Yeah, Amy
So-
was there as well.
Yeah, oh, Amy too, yeah, okay. So yes, sorry about that. We had Yoshiko and team participate in a virtual applicant workshop that was recorded. And so I guess it's going to be out on YouTube. It was in cooperation and collaboration with the Seattle Fire Department. So their workforce development recruiter, John Park, as well as Dory Towler and Hannah Costin, were all involved in giving candidates information about the process and how to prepare to do well in navigating the process. And I understand that we're in excess of 100 participants, so it was very successful. And it's going to be put out on YouTube, I understand. So it was recorded and then it's available to candidates, going forward who are interested in learning about what the process looks like and how to prepare for it.
Great. Any questions?
Thank you so much. And Evia, welcome.
Yes.
One question, Rachel, I was curious if you had just had a ballpark number on how many individuals go through the oral board process for entry-level firefighter exams per year, or every time it's offered. Is that something like 500 people, 1,000, 2,000? Do you know approximately how many folks typically show up for the first oral board?
It depends on the exam cycle, but I would say generally speaking, 1,500 or so.
Okay, perfect. That's very helpful. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Great. So the next item on the agenda is the fire and police staffing information.
Would you like to start with police or fire?
Oh, fire is fine.
Is that you, Sarah, or is that gonna be Dory?
I have the data. This is Dory.
Thanks, Dory.
Hi. We continue to have authorized uniform budget pockets of 1,108. Let's see, we've had 80 separations to date, and we've hired 69 employees into recruit classes this year. So our current staffing is 991 uniformed members.
Do we have any sense of what the sort of the ultimate goal is for those numbers?
More?
Know that?
More hiring? A lot more hiring? Yeah.
I mean, I recall the last meeting, I thought the police department was saying they had some like a goal of like, I don't know, almost 1,300. Do we know what the fire department has
Yeah, is their goal, Dory, to fill all of the budgeted positions, or is there a goal that is higher than that?
I believe it's to fill the budgeted positions, which we have plenty of vacancies to fill, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So now we can move on to the police department.
Hi, everyone. Alan McKenzie with Seattle Police. Separations year to date, we have 64. I believe the previous number I gave you was higher than that, somewhere in the 70s. That was an incorrect number. I apologize for that. Hires year to date, 37. The authorized budgeted pockets is 1,074. That's going to be the same for the foreseeable future. And the current staffing number remains at 1,012. That's the quarter 2 number. When I have the quarter 3 number for you, probably next meeting, that should be different. Commissioner Applegate, you asked me a few questions last time. I'm prepared to respond to those now if you'd like.
Great.
That'd be great. Thank you very much.
Sure. You asked about the academy, how many slots SPD has. There's 2 classes a month. We have 5 slots in each class. This would be 120 spots a year. And we're on pace this year to hire less than that. So I think your main question is the academy the bottleneck? The answer would be no. Next year, if the recruitment numbers continue as they are now, we might use all 120 of those slots in the academy, but right now we're not. As Ms. Shaley pointed out, it's not ideal to get a whole bunch of candidates at once, and so we're looking forward to this bi-weekly register starting next month. Hopefully that will even up the flow somewhat. You also asked me, what is the ideal staffing number? How many years is it going to take us to get there? That kind of a thing. And I sort of shopped that around. That's a very difficult question to answer. It depends on who you talk to, right? Different people have different ideas on what full staffing means. What's it based on? Is it some kind of a ratio to the population? Is it based on ideal response times? If you talk to members of the guild, they would probably say the ideal staffing number. You have to look back at least 10 years ago before the whole defund movement and a bunch of positions were eliminated. And so the department doesn't have a clear goal. Here's the ideal staffing number. So it's hard to predict how long it will take us to get there. I've heard anecdotally, it would probably take somewhere like 10 years to get back to pre-2020 staffing levels, even if we maintain our current hot pace. Keep in mind, it takes about 18 months to get a new officer fully trained up and out in the field and, independently operating and functioning. A lot of our employees are eligible to retire, even if they haven't yet put in their notices. And so that's a variable that can accurately predict, but we are going to have to stay even with that number, that retirement number, whatever that is. But basically, we don't have one magic staffing number, but it's higher than the current staffing. If there were 300 officers we could hire tomorrow, we would.
Thank you very much for the time and effort that you put into come up with that information. I'm sure it took some time and effort, so thank you very much. And it's very helpful. That's the exact information I was looking for. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. That was very helpful. Thank you.
Yes, thanks. So the next item on the agenda is the 2025 exam schedule. That's on pages 17 and 18. Sort of seems kind of self-explanatory, I think. Yes, it's good to have that right on the place. I like that. Yeah.
Well, and let me just add, thank you, Commissioner Green. This is not final. When we get working with the exam staff to ensure, that we have reservations and availability for all these spaces, and that this will be the final schedule, and we will present to you a final for your approval.
Okay, great. All right. So that concludes the updates item. So is there any old or new business?
Oh, just to add, I've been Googling a little bit while we were sitting here, and it looks like to be a presenter in a town hall meeting, you do need to be logged in as yourself on the app. And it sounds like Director Lee was able to log in on the phone. She may have had reduced functionality, but she was able to interact. And so I would say that a best practice is probably to try to use the desktop app, but certainly be logged in as yourself. And we will be sure when we invite presenters or other folks to participate as a presenter, we'll be sure to make sure that they have that information.
So to log in as myself, just thinking it through, I'd make sure to never hit as a guest. I would make sure I'm coming in with my email address.
You should be able, if you receive the invitation in your Outlook email, you'll be a presenter. And if you go from, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you go from that, you should be good, because that means you're also logged in and you're using the link that's for presenters.
Okay, I might be thinking of a different situation where sometimes I wind up as a guest. I'm never sure why.
Sometimes you do.
Yeah.
And you do.
I'll just be careful. I'll just be careful.
Yeah, and
Sometimes
if
I'm
you want to
moving.
go in on the link that is sent to you as the invitation,
In your
if you go in, say through the agenda.
Yeah.
Then you're going to come in as a guest.
Maybe that's what I'm doing. Okay, I think that's exactly what's going on. Okay.
Yeah. We'll get there, everybody. Thank you for your comments, for your help. In person's the best way to participate.
But Andrew, to your point, for the public to watch though, you don't have to download any app, you can watch it through the web browser.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. And I know you're across the street, Alan McKenzie. You should come over here and meet us.
We're wonderful people.
I was there last time. I got stuck in
know.
the elevators downstairs. So I was 20 minutes
You
late.
didn't stick around though. You hightailed it out of here.
Okay, let's see, I know we have the civil service, there's CLE on what's this, first and second?
Okay, yes, and let's take a look. Thank you for bringing that up. Let's take a look at the agenda. We have it here because there might be sessions. We'll follow up. We'll email you commissioners. There might be sessions that you don't need to attend, such as
Definitely.
Yeah, I think
the
that's-
PST business meeting may not be of any interest to you. There are a lot of public safety related sessions, so you definitely want to pick and choose, but I think you can register for like the morning session or the afternoon session only. And I'll send out my recommendations of what you look at.
That'd be great.
That's very helpful. All right, well, if there's nothing else, I'm going to move that we adjourn.
Second.
Yeah. Any discussion? So all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We stand adjourned at 10:53.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Great meeting.